Pranam Maharaj. A big warm welcome to all to our 160th celebration of Swami Vivekananda's birthday here in Dublin. Today we have amongst us a very distinguished speaker and Sarvapriyananda. And to welcome Swamiji, we have our minister in charge, Swami Shantivratananda ji.
Jananim Sharadam Devi Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhum Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukasvarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. My reverential pranams to Revered Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj, Minister in Charge, Vedanta Society of New York, Pranams Maharaj, and also my reverential pranams to Swami Purnanji Maharaj here. All my love and best wishes to all the devotees who are sitting here offline in our Dublin Ashrama, and also the devotees across the globe who are online. Today morning, we have celebrated 160th birthday of Swami Vivekananda. There was a special puja, bhajans, prayer, etc. And as a part of Swami Vivekananda's Jayanti celebrations, today we are having a special satsang or a special talk by Revered Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj. And we are very grateful for him for considering our request. And today he is here to address all of us on the beautiful topic, interesting topic, that is Swami Vivekananda's Vedantic spirituality. Swamiji is known worldwide, no doubt, but as a matter of courtesy, probably as a good gesture, just I would like to introduce Swamiji. Swami Sarvapriyananda is the monk of the Ramakrishna Order. Presently is the minister and spiritual leader of the Vedanta Society of New York since January 17. He joined the Ramakrishna Mutt in 1994 and received sannyasa in 2004. He has served as an acharya of the Monastic Probationers Training Center at Belur Mutt, India. And indeed, I am very blessed to have as an acharya for me also during my training center. I learned Vedanta Sara regarding prophets and inspired talk, and especially now also I remember about lectures from Colombo to Almora. He taught us so nicely. Even today also, I have taken a lot of classes about lectures from Colombo to Almora. They all find very happy about the devotees or volunteers. How did you learn? When they ask, I said, I had a wonderful acharya in the training center. That's the reason I am able to tell or explain the lectures from Colombo to Almora. And also Western psychology. I was introduced to the Western psychology by the Revered Maharaj. He has also served in various capacities in different educational institutes of the Ramakrishna Mission in India, like Devgar and our Vivekananda University, and in our B.Ed college in the Belur Mutt, etc. And he served as the assistant minister of the Vedanta Society of Southern California, and he was an inaugural fellow at the Harvard Divinity School in 2019-20. Swamiji is a well-known speaker on Vedanta, on consciousness, spirituality, Indian philosophy, and yoga. He has been a popular speaker and also on various prestigious forums such as TEDx, and has given a Google talk too. He has also been invited to speak at several universities across the world, including the Harvard University. The Swamiji has engaged in dialogues with eminent thinkers like Deepak Chopra, Robert Spira, and Rick Arker, and he has played a prominent role in organizing and participating in various interfaith panels and seminars, including speaking at the World Parliament of Religions in Toronto in 2018 and at the United Nations headquarters in New York. His popular talks have been compiled into a collection of e-books. Who Am I? What is Vedanta? And Dissolve into Infinity are the titles currently available on Amazon Kindle. With reverential pranams, on behalf of Ramakrishna Vedanta Center, Air Vedanta Society, New Dublin, I welcome you, Swamiji, for this today's event, and I also request humbly to address all of us on Swami Vivekananda's Vedantic spirituality. Pranam Maharaj.
Namaskar. Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Surai Satchid Sukha Swarupaya Swami Netapaharine. I'm most grateful to Swami Shantivratananda ji for organizing this event as part of the celebrations of Swami Vivekananda's birthday at the Vedanta Society there in Dublin, in Ireland. My namaskars, loving namaskars to him. My reverential pranams to Swami Purnananda ji. My namaskars and best wishes to all the devotees who have physically gathered there at the center in Dublin, and also namaskars to all the audience who have come together on the internet, on Zoom, and I think on YouTube also, those who are watching the live stream. So the subject, Vedantic spirituality of Swami Vivekananda, I'll speak for some time about it. And then if you have questions, especially those who are on the Zoom platform, you can ask those questions. You can put it on the chat function there, or you can raise your hand, that little yellow hand that comes up on Zoom. You can ask questions that way also. Before I start, let me just mention that on this very subject, a new book, major new book is going to be released in March. It's called Swami Vivekananda's Vedantic Cosmopolitanism. It's written by one of our brilliant young monks, Swami Medhananda, Ayon Maharaj, who a couple of years ago published this remarkable book on Sri Ramakrishna, Infinite Paths to Infinite Reality. That also was published by Oxford University Press and made quite a splash. As Swami Shantivratananda mentioned, I got a fellowship at Harvard a couple of years ago, and I saw that book in the offices of a number of professors there. And this book, which is going to be released in a couple of months, Swami Vivekananda's Vedantic Cosmopolitanism, I'm sure it's going to be major, it's going to have a big effect. We had a presentation on that book for our Vedanta Society here yesterday, and it's quite remarkable what he has managed to pack into one volume. So that's something to look forward to. Swami Vivekananda is very helpful himself when it comes to defining what exactly is his spiritual philosophy. He says, my mission in life can be put in a few words. It is to preach unto humanity, into mankind, their inner divinity and how to make it manifest in life. His definition of religion is very simple, very well known, but very profound. The manifestation of the divinity already within us. So that's one aspect of Swami Vivekananda's Vedantic spirituality. The other aspect is the oneness of the universe. So these two aspects, the divinity within us and the oneness of the universe, this is the foundation of Swami Vivekananda's Vedantic spirituality. We'll spend some time on this and then go a little further ahead. First, often Swami Vivekananda speaks about the divinity within us. What exactly does he mean? He means here nothing less than the Atman doctrine of the Upanishads, the real nature of the sentient being. We are all aware, and we are aware that we are limited beings. We have bodies which are born and will change and age and die, subject to disease like COVID and other things. We have minds, we have thoughts and feelings and emotions and ideas and desires, and we interact with people, and we are subject to pleasure and pain. We want pleasure, we want happiness, but we do not want pain, but we experience pain and pleasure. We try to maximize pleasure, we try to minimize our suffering. This is how life goes on. This is the way we see ourselves. The Upanishads say that we are profoundly mistaken about ourselves. If only we know who we are, then our problems would be solved at the deepest possible level. This is the spirituality of the Upanishads, the inquiry into the nature of the self and the knowledge of the self, which will when the knowledge of the self comes, that is a solution to all our problems. That removes the problem of suffering, and that gives us profound peace and fulfillment. And that's an interesting claim, that how can knowledge about ourselves remove suffering and give us fulfillment? After all, I think the first thing that we always feel that we know is ourselves. We don't feel there's anything more to know about ourselves. And what can anybody else tell me more about myself? I know about myself. What I don't know about is the world. I have myself. What I don't have is the world. And I feel I have to know about the world and get things from the world, make changes in the world, and then I'll be happy. Then I'll be able to overcome suffering. What is the goal of spirituality? What can spirituality do for us? There is an interesting answer from the Buddha himself. This is something that I got from the philosopher Arindam Chakravarti. It comes straight from the Buddha. We know that the Buddha saw suffering. The well-known story, children know about it. The Prince Siddhartha saw an old man, a diseased man, and a dead man, and then finally a sannyasi. The four sights he saw, and then finally decided to renounce the world in search of enlightenment. And what was the purpose? The Buddha's purpose was to overcome suffering, not his own suffering. At that point, he didn't really have much suffering. He was prince in the prime of his life, but he realized the pervasive nature of suffering, old age, disease, death. Is there a solution to it? And he felt that I will search for a solution to it. And that was the quest. And then he claimed he had found it. Bodhi, enlightenment, and the attainment of nirvana, escape from suffering or freedom from suffering. Now, many years later, Buddha lived to a long and old life. He was 80 when he passed. So many years later, a monk asked the Buddha that freedom from suffering is old age, or old age is suffering, disease is suffering, death is suffering, and we are engaged in this quest for freedom from suffering. But we are also becoming old. You are also becoming old. We are also getting disease. You are also getting disease. And monks are also dying. The Buddhists who follow your teachings are also dying. So disease, death, and old age are there for us. How did we escape suffering? You see the way the question is put. The claim was disease, old age, death, these are the forms, major forms of suffering. And I, the Buddha, have found the solution to suffering. But still, disease is there, even for people who are practicing Buddhism, even for the Buddha himself. Old age is there, and finally death will be there. So how is it freedom from suffering, what you are teaching us? Then the Buddha said, imagine a person is hit by an arrow. Imagine the nature of suffering. A person is hit by an arrow. Imagine the pain and the shock, and immediately is hit by a second arrow. Imagine the pain and the shock and the suffering. Now, the first arrow is what the world throws at us. What happens in the world, what happens to our bodies, what happens in life is the first arrow. That causes some pain and suffering, no doubt. The second arrow is our reaction to the first arrow. So the nature of suffering is like being hit by two arrows. What's the first arrow? Whatever happens in the world to our bodies, old age, disease, death. And the second arrow is our reaction to that. And the Buddha's claim was our real suffering comes from that second arrow, not much from that first arrow. In fact, how do we know that? Notice the same problem, two different people react in two different ways. So somebody may deal with disease and old age in a very positive way, in a very resilient way. Another person may not, may fall apart. So it is our reaction to the happenings in the world, reaction to the happenings in our own body, which determine how much suffering we have got or how much we are able to overcome suffering. And the Buddha said, what I am teaching you is an answer to that second arrow. It solves the problem of that second arrow. For the first arrow, I cannot do anything. And that's the teaching of spiritual masters throughout the ages. Krishna says to Arjuna, what about the heat, cold and heat of the world? The disease and old age which comes in life for everybody. What about the humiliation, frustration, and the problems which come in life? Krishna says, Tan titikshasva bharata. You have to bear with them, O Arjuna. Now, they cannot be stopped. They are coming because of karma, and the results will keep coming. That is called life. You can't stop that without stopping life itself. But what Buddhism can do for you, what Vedanta can do for you, what Vivekananda and Buddha can do for you is to change our reaction with the help of wisdom, and so that we overcome suffering. That is the nature, the inner nature of spirituality. It really does not change the world outside or the course of events in our life, but it changes us thoroughly inside, and that's the important thing. That's where suffering happens, and that is changed. Now, with that background, when Swami Vivekananda says manifestation of the divinity within us, what does he mean? What is this divinity within us? It's a general term. What is this divinity within us? The Upanishads tell us that we have to consider who or what we are. We are thoroughly convinced, I am not divine. I am, however much I may want to think of myself as divine, I'm pretty human. The Upanishad says, all right, let's start there. What do you think you are? Not who are you, but what do you think you are? And when we look at ourselves, we see, well, I am this body. Let's start with the body. And then the Upanishads, Vedanta shows us, notice the body changes. It is born, and it is a baby, then a child, and a teenager, and a middle-aged person, young person, middle-aged person, old person, and finally it dies. And yet you claim that you were that baby, you were that child, you are now this young person, and one day you will be there in that old body, and it is the body, and then you will die. But you are the same. Now, how can you be the same in a tremendously changing body, a body which is changing continuously, and you have that intuitive feeling of being the same? The old person's body and the baby's body are just not the same, even biologically. The material itself in those bodies, they've changed tremendously over the years. And yet we say, I was that baby, now I am this old person. Then I'm not exactly referring to the body. Changing body and the unchanging sense of self, they don't go together. This is just one argument. Remember, these Vedantic arguments, they are not mathematical proofs. They are not meant to demonstrate irrevocably that you are not the body. They are more like legal arguments. Like a lawyer in front of a jury, and the judge tries to convince you that his side is right, and gives you a battery of convincing arguments. Like that, Vedanta tries to show us something. So one argument is this. Notice, this is just not theoretical arguments. You have to notice this in your own life. Body changes, I don't change, or at least I don't claim that I am different. I am the same one. A little deeper, more sophisticated argument is this, that the body is an experienced object, and I am the experiencer. I am the seer, and the body is the seen. Just as I look at this pen, and the eyes are seeing and the pen is seen, the eyes and the pen are different entities. So literally, that which sees and that which is seen must be different. They cannot be the same thing. Notice, the only thing that the eyes cannot see are the eyes themselves. The eyes can see everything else, but they can't see themselves. One might say that, no, just look at your picture in the screen, Swami. Can't you see your own eyes? But that's a picture of my eyes. If you take a selfie, that's a picture of your eyes. If you look in a mirror, that's a reflection of your eyes. The way the eyes see this object directly, that way the eyes cannot see themselves directly. This is known in philosophy as the impossibility of self-reflexivity. In Vedanta, or in fact in Sanskrit, this is called Kartri Karma Virodha. Thing cannot act upon itself. The knife can't cut itself. You can't stand on your own shoulders. In the same way, the knower and the known, the action of knowing, the one who knows and that which is known, they must be different. The seer and the seen must be different. So consider the body. Are you aware of the body? Do you know the body? By know, I mean, can you see the body? Of course, I can see my own body. Can you touch it? Yes, I can smell it, touch it, taste it. I can even hear the rumbling of the tummy when I'm hungry. So all the five senses operate on the body. You, the knower, using the five senses, you can objectify the body. If you are knowing the body, then it's in principle no different from knowing or seeing this pen. That which you see is different from the seer. That which you know, the body, is different from you, the knower of the body. What have we got here? The knower of the body is different from the body itself. The body is an object, you are a subject. And they cannot be the same thing by the principle of that self-reflexivity in knowledge is not allowed. Kartri karma virodha is not allowed. And this is a pretty cogent argument when you think about it. I seem to be the body and I seem to be knowing myself, but that's not logical. The entity which knows, it cannot be that which is being known. So there's a difference there. One can take an even more subtle argument. And the argument would be consciousness, awareness. We are all aware, all of us. When you see, you are aware. When you hear, you are aware. When you smell, taste, touch, you're aware. When you think, you're aware. When you're happy, you're aware. When you're unhappy, you're aware. You can't be any of these things. Perceptions, ideas, memories. You can't have any of these things without being aware. Now, you are aware. Your very nature is awareness. And the body is not aware. The body is something that is not aware. It feels aware, but it's because of your presence in the body. The body is an object of awareness. It is not aware in itself. You are aware. Your very nature is awareness. Now, in that case, that which is not aware and that which is aware, they can't be the same thing. So we have already got three arguments, and there can be many more arguments. Just this is sufficient. Three arguments to show that I cannot be the body, though I feel that I am the body. Why? First argument, changing, unchanging. Savikara, nirvikara. Body changes from birth till old age till death. I feel I am the same one. So changing, unchanging cannot be the same thing. I, the intuitively unchanging, and the body which is obviously changing cannot be the same. The second argument is drigdrishya, the seer and the seen, the subject and the object, knower and the known. By the very logic that self-reflexivity is not allowed, katri karma virodha, it cannot be the same thing. Just as the eyes and the pen that the eyes see are not the same thing. Similarly, the body and you, the knower of the body, who can see the body, touch the body, smell and taste and hear the body, you cannot be the same thing. The third argument is chit jara, aware, not aware, sentient, not sentient, conscious, not conscious. The body is not conscious. You are conscious of the body. Just look at a hand and you say, I am aware of the hand. A hand is not aware of me. Clearly, look at just see your own experience. So, because of these reasons, and I can give many more reasons, these reasons are meant to convince our intellect, but they're also meant to point out something which is already a fact. We don't see it that way. We are supposed to train us to see it that way. Then I cannot be, the body is there, but I cannot literally be the body. Now go deeper. We might say that, yes, all that is very clear, but I've never said I am the body, but I am this person, embodied person. I am this mind and intellect and memory, this personality in the body. I am embodied. I have a body, but I am not literally the body. Well, let's consider that too. Vedanta says that look at the mind, what you consider yourself to be, your thoughts, feelings, emotions, this person you consider yourself to be. Consider the mind. Does it change? Oh boy, does it change. From morning till now, it's evening in Ireland now. How many times it has changed in this one day? You were sleepy, then you were alert, maybe at some time you were excited, then you were bored, sometimes you were irritated, sometimes you are happy, sometimes you understand things, and sometimes you don't, sometimes you remember things, and sometimes you're trying to recall things. Memory, intellect, mind, emotion, they continuously change. We have a stream of perceptions, thoughts, emotions, ideas, memories, continuous stream of change, which we call broadly the mind. Internally, we are all experiencing it. It is changing. And yet, I must admit, I was the one who felt sleepy. I was the one who felt awake, alert. I was the one who felt unhappy. I was the one who felt happy. I am the same one. So I, the unchanging and the ever-changing mind, how can the unchanging and the changing be same? Same argument. It shows that I cannot be the mind. The mind is there, but I literally can't be the mind. Go deeper. The second argument, the seer and the seen. Are you aware of the body? Are you aware of the mind? Yes, I am. When there's a flash of pain or unhappiness, I'm aware of the unhappiness. When there's the flash of understanding, I get it. I'm aware of getting it. When I'm confused, I don't get it. I'm aware I'm not getting it. So this awareness of the contents of the mind is always there. So the mind is something that you are aware of. That which is aware, that which is knows, the knower, and that which is known, the subject and the object, cannot be the same thing. So the mind, the knower of the mind, cannot literally be the mind. In that sense, you are not the mind, you are the seer of the mind. Active mind, you are the seer of the active mind. You are not active. The passive mind, sleepy mind, you are the experiencer of the sleepy mind. You are not sleepy. The happy mind, the miserable mind, it's a new way of thinking. I am not happy or miserable. I'm aware of the happiness in the mind. I'm aware of the misery in the mind. I'm aware of the restlessness of the mind. I'm aware of the calmness of the mind. New way of thinking. We don't think that way. We think, I'm happy. I was happy. Now I'm miserable. I was calm. Now I'm restless. No. These are attributes of the mind, states of the mind, and you are the one who experiences them. Therefore, you must not be the same. You must be different. Go further. The conscious, not conscious. This may be stunning because one thing we are sure is the mind is conscious. But Vedanta says the mind is conscious because you light it up. Because you, the conscious being present there, thoughts, feelings, emotions all seem lit up by awareness. When I have a happy thought, I feel happy. It's lit up by awareness. When I understand something, the intellect getting something feels lit up by awareness. Every thought feels lit up by awareness. But you are the awareness and you are aware of the mind. The mind itself is not aware. If this argument doesn't seem very, very convincing, you can just think a thought right now. Think ABCD or 1 + 1 = 2. Just any thought. And then ask yourself, was I aware of ABCD, 1 + 1 = 2, or was ABCD aware of me? And it becomes absolutely obvious. This saying ABCD to yourself is like mental talk. And clearly that mental talk is not aware of you or anything else. It's not aware of itself. It's not aware of you or anything else. You are aware of it. This ABCD in the mind, or 1 + 1 = 2 in the mind. All thoughts, the contents of the mind are revealed to you, the awareness. Those contents are not aware by themselves, not of themselves, nor of anything else. So these three arguments apply to the mind also. And savikara, nirvikara, changing, unchanging. You, the unchanging, cannot be the changing mind. Drik drishya, you, the seer or the witness of the mind, cannot be the mind. Mind is drishya, seen. You are drik, seer, subject, and the mind is an object. And then conscious, not conscious. Quite remarkable. You see, modern consciousness studies takes the mind itself as consciousness. I mean, if you ask consciousness studies experts, what do they study actually? What is the material of the study? And they will say thoughts, feelings, emotions, perceptions. Vedanta will say that they are mixing up two things. In thoughts, feelings, emotions, perceptions, memories, there is mind and consciousness lighting it up. There are two things always. And the proof of that is your own experience. You can see your experience that as awareness and changing contents of the mind. So awareness is you, and the contents of the mind are ever changing. They are not aware in themselves, in and of themselves. Chit jara. Because of this, you are not the mind. Now, I'm going in a very broad, sweeping way. Body mind, that's all I'm doing. In Vedanta, you will see a more fine-grained analysis. You will see physical body, the subtle body, the causal body, and the same arguments in each case. You cannot be any of them. They are bodies, they are shells, they are outer layers, they are not you. You are the awareness to whom all of these appear. You can have even more fine-grained analysis, the 5 layers of the human personality, the physical, annamaya, the vital pranamaya, the mental manomaya, the intellectual vijnanamaya, the causal anandamaya, and all of these are body mind, basically fine grained analysis, but the result is the same. You are the unchanging, knowing or illumining awareness. Body mind, what you consider to be yourself, are facts. They are there, but they are presented to you, the consciousness. All right. This consciousness, let us appreciate it for what it is. It's the body which ages, which is born and disease and aging and dying. Consciousness in itself, is it born with the birth of the body? If it's different from the body in principle, then why would you say it's born up from the birth of the body? It's only because we take it that it is generated by the mind and by the brain. Then that's why we say only when the brain is born with the body and develops, then consciousness is generated. No. If in principle you begin to see that the brain and consciousness are not the same thing, then it does not follow that with the birth of the body and its brain and nervous system, consciousness will be born. No. So consciousness is, the claim is, consciousness is not born with the birth of the body. It does not change with the development and growth of the nervous system and brain, just illumines it. It does not age with the aging of the body. It does not die with the death of the body. Consciousness is not male. It's the body which is male. Consciousness is not female. It's the body which is female. Consciousness is not white or black or any race. Consciousness is not a human being or an animal. We talk about human consciousness, but that's already consciousness plus human body mind, the human system. So consciousness is not subject to disease. It's the body which is subject to disease. Even more, consciousness is not subject to frustration, unhappiness, misery, depression. It is the mind which is subject to unhappiness, misery, depression. And when you think in this way, the mind itself has a benefit. It does not become so much more upset anymore because of the ups and downs of life. You see, it's our identification with the mind body which results in unhappiness and misery in the mind. When I see myself, and when I say I see myself, I need the help of the mind. All this thinking is being done by the mind after all. So I see that in the mind, my real nature is understood as independent or not affected by the vicissitudes of body mind. That gives freedom, that gives fearlessness, that gives peace. And this freedom and fearlessness and peace, paradoxically, are experienced in the mind. In the mind where this knowledge arises. See, even this knowledge arises in the mind, and that's true. Somebody said, somebody asked me, all this you're doing in the mind, even saying that I am not the mind, is doing it in the mind. Of course. Where else would you do it? Where the mind is supposed to think. The thinking is done in the mind. But it is not about itself. It is about you, the consciousness. Ignorance is in the mind. Knowledge must arise in the mind. Ignorance is not in your bones or your flesh. It's in the mind. And so knowledge must arise in the mind, and knowledge will remove ignorance in the mind. And it reveals to us our real nature, which is this unchanging awareness, this witness consciousness. Why is witness? Because it illumines the mind and the senses. This is the so-called divinity which Swami Vivekananda is talking about when he says divinity within us. But then why does he use a general term like divinity? Because more we read Vivekananda, it's not just in this technical sense that we are the witness consciousness, not just in this sense that he means the divinity within us. What follows is, if we are this witness consciousness, immortal, not subject to birth and death, free by its very nature, pure by its very nature, then what consequence does it have for our life? When you reflect back upon this body mind, which is still there, when you live your life in this knowledge, then what happens? Then it is called, you are said to be a Jivan Mukta, free while living. You experience the freedom of living in the body and yet not of the body, living a mortal life and yet you are not mortal. And the result will be the manifestation of the qualities which go to making a saint. You see, divinity within us does not just mean this understanding, I am the witness consciousness, like Shankaracharya sings, Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. I am of the nature of, I am consciousness, I am bliss, I am Shiva. That's wonderful. But then, so what? How does it change your life? It changes your life in this way. The qualities which we associate with being a saint, love, and altruism, and fearlessness, all of these begin to manifest in such a person. So notice how Swami Vivekananda puts it. My mission in life can be put in a few words: to preach unto mankind their inner divinity, and how to make it manifest in every movement of life. See, there are these two aspects to enlightenment. One is what I call a paradigm shift, and the other one is ethical manifestation. And this is an idea I came across in a paper written on Tibetan Buddhism during this fellowship which I had a couple of years back at the Harvard Divinity School. And they discussed this. What is exactly the nature of enlightenment? It seems to have this dual nature. One side of it is, I realize who I am. Of course, the Buddhist wouldn't say that I am the Atman, but let's apply the same paradigm to the Vedantic framework. So I realized, I thought I was this little being, Sarvapriyananda. Now I realize I am this impersonal awareness, and working through this being called, which is transactionally called Sarvapriyananda. So this is one aspect of it. This is called paradigm shift, shifting from the body-mind identification to the realization, I am the witness consciousness. The second aspect of it is called ethical manifestation. That means after this realization, this spiritual insight, how is it changing my life? They say walk the talk here in America. When the rubber hits the road, how do you respond to life? How do you respond to same old problems, old age, disease, death, the numerous problems which will come up continuously, unceasingly through life? How do you respond to temptation? How do you respond to terror? So that will change. That change must be there. The manifestation of fearlessness, the manifestation of altruism, the manifestation of self-control, the manifestation of rising above, depending on the world to fulfill our desires. That is the first thing that Sri Krishna tells Arjuna. Arjuna asks this question: what happens in life to a person who becomes enlightened? And Krishna says to Arjuna that the first thing is that person is completely satisfied, does not depend on the world, on sense objects and experiences in the world for fulfillment. I don't depend upon relationships, food and partying and gadgets and vacations and social media likes for my fulfillment. I have found something, Krishna says to Arjuna, finding which nothing greater remains to be got. Yan labdhva nachaparam labham manyate tato adhikam. Having attained which, there is no greater gain that a person considers worth having, or greater than this. And nothing that happens to you in life can shake you at a deep level, at an existential level. Yasmin sthito dukkhena guruna apina vichalyate. Settled in which, set in which, the greatest of sorrows cannot shake you. You have found such a rock upon which you can base your life. So this is the ethical manifestation. When Swami Vivekananda means manifesting the divinity, he means both, with a stress on the ethical manifestation. Remember, he was a tremendously practical man, like his master Sri Ramakrishna. He believed in practical spirituality. What good does it do to me and to others, my spirituality? It does this good. Not only a paradigm shift, not only do I realize Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, I am of the nature of Shiva, consciousness and bliss. Wonderful, good for you. What did it do for your life and for others? This other aspect of it, ethical manifestation. That's why Swami Vivekananda says, manifesting this divinity in every movement of life. Our behavior has to change. Our thinking has to change. Our feeling patterns have to change. So these changes must be manifested in body-mind. So the life of the ordinary mortal becomes a saintly life. Life becomes a blessing to yourself. You have solved your problem, and you become a blessing to all those others around you also. Right now, we are a problem to ourselves. Most of all, we are the biggest problem to ourselves. And we are also a problem secondarily to everybody else around ourselves. That must change. So that is called manifestation of the divinity within ourselves. There is the second aspect of Swami Vivekananda's teaching, Vedantic spirituality. I said earlier, the divinity within ourselves, and the second one was the oneness of all existence, the oneness of the universe. You see, I am this consciousness, witness consciousness, the witness of the activities of the body mind, the presence of the body mind and its activities. But how many such witnesses are there? Because I see so many bodies. Presumably all of them have minds, and therefore do all of them have separate consciousnesses? Consciousness is something that doesn't have a plural. It seems to have a plural, it doesn't. And I will not go into the arguments here, and they are many and subtle and complex. But Advaita Vedanta comes to the conclusion that consciousness is one. And all of us are not separate witnesses to separate bodies and minds, but we are one consciousness, shining through many bodies and minds. We are actually at the core one being. We are all one all the time, choicelessly so. We are one reality. Krishna says to Arjuna that avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam. One undivided being awareness in all beings, all living creatures, appearing to be divided, appearing to be different. So this is the conclusion, that we are one sentience, one awareness throughout the universe. Still, somebody might say, all right, you are one consciousness, but what about the non-conscious? What about the objects? There are millions of entities in this universe, stars and planets and cosmic dust and quarks and quasars, and living beings in the millions and billions. So they are different, right? It's not non-dual. There's multiplicity, there's plurality. Well, according to Advaita Vedanta, we are not only one consciousness, but everything that is experienced in that consciousness is an appearance of that same consciousness. The universe is not different from you. From you means the capital U, the one consciousness. The universe is your appearance. What Vedanta wants to say, and I'll just say it outright without the supporting arguments and insights. What Vedanta says is the world appears to you, in you, and as nothing but you. You, awareness. The world appears to awareness, in awareness, and ultimately must be nothing but awareness, appearing as its own object. That's worth repeating. World appears, universe appears to awareness, in awareness, and ultimately is nothing but the same awareness appearing as its own object. Therefore, the universe is literally one reality, appearing as many, experienced as many. Transactions go on in the many, but it is one reality. So this is the doctrine of non-duality or Advaita. Many an appearance, in reality one. No second reality apart from this one consciousness. This is called Brahman, the vast. Literal etymological meaning of Brahman is just the vast, an impersonal vastness. That's our real reality. Now, before I wrap up, I still really haven't touched upon the uniqueness of Swami Vivekananda's Vedantic spirituality. And I'll just mention that and stop. Sister Nivedita, in her masterful introduction to the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, and it's particularly relevant that I say this to you because you are in the homeland of Sister Nivedita, Margaret Noble. She unerringly points to the essence of Vivekananda. She gives us the master key to Vivekananda, the one understanding, the one insight which will unlock Vivekananda. All of Vivekananda can be understood by this one insight. What does she say? Everything that I just said to you, the divinity within us and the oneness of the universe, Sister Nivedita says, all of this would have existed even if Vivekananda had not come. What I just said to you is classical Advaita Vedanta. It is there in the Upanishads and in the Shankara's works. It's all there. Not one thing is new here. Swami Vivekananda's presentation was fresh and bold and clear in modern terms, but still, the ideas are not one new idea. Now, what was unique to Vivekananda then? Then what is it that Vivekananda can be known specially for? And Sister Nivedita writes in her introduction, I'll read it out to you, soaring language. She says, the many and the one are the same reality, perceived by the mind at different times and in different attitudes. Vivekananda showed, following his master Sri Ramakrishna, that dualism, that qualified monism, that non-dualism are developments of the same stream of thought. They are not contradictory philosophies. Sri Ramakrishna says, that which is without form and beyond attributes is also the same thing that is with form and with attributes. What does all this mean? This sounds all very abstract. What is its implication? This is what Sister Nivedita writes. It is this, one and the many, it is this which adds its crowning significance to our master's life, to Vivekananda's life. So she considers this to be the crowning significance of Vivekananda's life, this teaching of the one and the many being the same reality. Implication, practical implication, Swami Vivekananda becomes the meeting point not only of East and West, but also of the past and future. If the many and the one be indeed the same reality, then it is not all modes of worship alone, but equally all modes of work, all modes of struggle, all modes of creation, which are paths of realization. Now, one sentence, I'm stunned at the profundity of this one sentence. All work, all struggle, all creation, all the endeavors of artists and musicians and writers, all of them, they're not in themselves spiritual, but they can be spiritualized by this philosophy of one and the many. Not just creativity, but all modes of struggle, all your struggle for a variety of causes which seem righteous to you, struggling for gender equality, for democracy, for race equality, for removing the difference, for equity in economic terms, for stopping global warming, for preservation of the biosphere, all modes of struggle, of activism. They're not spiritual in themselves, but they can be easily spiritualized on this basis of one and the many being the same reality. All work, even the widest sense, all work. You may not be an artist, you may not be a social activist, you may just be this person who's living your own life, but everything that you do, making a cup of tea in your kitchen, all work in your house, in your office, in your community, in your workplace, all work is also spirituality. They are all paths of realization. Imagine that in one sentence, what has she said? And that's why it's the future. It's not only a meeting of the past, East and West, but past and future. All of the traditional spiritual wisdom of India comes through Vivekananda to this point, but also now looks to the future. It has something to say to us and something to say to generations which will come after us. And that's what makes Vivekananda this giant who will only grow in significance as the decades and centuries pass. We are only beginning to see the beginning of the Vivekananda wave. I mentioned that book which is coming out, Vivekananda's Vedantic Cosmopolitanism. It's something really, we are all looking forward to that. Very intense work. I'm sure more will come over the centuries as we go ahead. We will see some of it. Then she says, no distinction henceforth between sacred and secular. To labor is to pray. To conquer is to renounce. Life is itself religion. To have and hold is as stern a trust as to quit and avoid. This is the realization which makes Vivekananda the great preacher of karma, action, not as divorced from knowledge and devotion, but as expressing jnana and bhakti. Your jnana, your bhakti is expressed in your action. To him, the workshop, the study, the farmyard, the field are as true and fit scenes for the meeting of God with man as the cell of the monk or the door of the temple. Where will you meet your God? You can meet him in the farmyard, in the fields. You can meet him in the scholar's study. You can meet him in the shop floor of the factory. This is possible only because of the doctrine of the one and the many being the same reality. To him, there is no difference between service of man and worship of God. That is the principle behind the service activities of the whole Ramakrishna order. Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. You see the divinity in all beings and then serve. Again, one and the many is the same reality. Between manliness and faith. So, which one do you follow? Self-effort, or do you say self-surrender to God? Both are reconciled because of one and many being the same reality. Between true righteousness and spirituality, the good and God, ethics and spirituality, there's no contradiction. They are both manifestations of the same thing. And then she says, stunning sentence, all his words, all of Vivekananda's words, from one point of view, read as a commentary upon this central conviction. What conviction? One and the many, Brahman and the world, are the same reality. The absolute Brahman of non-dual Advaita Vedanta, the qualified Brahman of Vishishta Advaita Vedanta, and the personal God of religion, of all religions, all theistic religions, are again the same reality. One and the same. They're not contradictory. Not that one is superior to the other. They are different aspects of the same reality realized by different spiritual seekers. And then he goes on to say, she quotes Vivekananda, art, science, and religion, he said once, are but three different ways of expressing a single truth. But in order to understand this, we must have the theory of Advaita. Can you be spiritual and be an artist? Artists have always felt this, but so far the philosophies did not support it. But now this philosophy of one and the many supports it. Can you be a scientist and be spiritual? Not that he is not saying, or she is also not saying that all artists are spiritual or all scientists are spiritual. The nuance must be understood. You can spiritualize this. Art, science, and religion. We in fact now have a monk, a brilliant, one of the leading mathematicians of the world, a topologist. He is working in India in the leading fundamental science research institute in India, Tata Institute of Fundamental Science. Now, you may say, okay, that's different and his being a monk is different. No, if you talk to him, he sees it as an expression of his spirituality. He doesn't see any contradiction. It's not that he's a monk and a mathematician. He's a monk mathematician. How is that possible? Which philosophy, which philosophy of life, which spiritual philosophy supports this? This one. Is this new? Is this something radically different? I think it is an extension of traditional Advaita Vedanta, but definitely an extension. In that sense, it is a further development, and it's extraordinary in its implications for this age and for ages to come. Good. We have a few minutes left. I think we can take a couple of questions. If I think I'll look at the chat and see if there are questions. Yes.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for this wonderfully beautiful and illuminating talk. We do have a lot of questions, and most of them, I think, are on YouTube Live. We have Malavika here. She has compiled a few of those questions, who would read out the questions to you, and if you could please answer them.
Let me just do this. One question from Nirvan in the chat box. If we are the same consciousness, what is it that we interact with as interactions with each person seems different? Yes. So notice interaction with each person. The moment you say each person, you've already differentiated. If you look at the Zoom box here, there are 26 people here. Now, what makes one consciousness 26? It is the one body, it is 26 bodies and 26 minds, the same consciousness shining through. You have one sunlight streaming through, the stained glass windows of a church. And when you see from inside the church, you have so many colors shining through. It's the same light. So the same consciousness with different minds and bodies, especially minds, it seems you're interacting with this. So it's a wonderful multi-experiential, variegated kind of experience of the world you have. because of this variety. Then let's hear some of the other questions.
So perhaps I can try to connect some of the YouTube questions with the one of the Zoom question. And the YouTube question was how to implement Swami Vivekananda's Vedantic teaching effectively in a pressurized competitive environment where persons I am facing may be not on the same path as me. And maybe with that related questions could be that how important to have guru in order to practice Swami Vivekananda's Vedantic spirituality in our regular life in parallel to 9 to 5 work, and how frequently should we introspect whether I am able to follow the correct or the desired path. Should I read all the questions to you?
All right, let me just answer these two.
Yeah.
They seem to be similar. Right. Now, one part of Swami Vivekananda's teachings which I did not touch was the actual practice. So how do you implement this? What do you do actually? So Swami Vivekananda classified the practices under 4 broad heads, which is action and devotion and meditation and knowledge, self-knowledge. Jnana, bhakti, dhyana, and karma. So spiritualizing action, it is the whole teaching of karma yoga, how you can see action as service. That is the teaching. Then the importance of love. That is another thing. Is our life based on love? Love of God and love of the human, of everybody else. Then the third area of practice would be focus. Swami Vivekananda gave a lot of importance on that. So the whole technology, spiritual technology of Raja Yoga or Patanjali Yoga Sutras is basically one of focus. We have tremendous powers, but they are scattered. And to the extent that people are successful in life, they don't have to be spiritual, but the extent to which they are successful in life, they have been able to focus the powers of the mind. So the powers of mind are focused, and meditation here is very helpful. And then, most important, an inquiry into ourselves, knowledge, self-knowledge. As long as we do not shake this erroneous belief that I am this limited body-mind, we will be at the mercy of nature. We will be in the mercy of ups and downs. When we shift, that paradigm shift is important. I am not this body and mind. I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. And it's not just like a positive self-affirmation, like a statement you keep repeating to yourself, but actually an insight into what we are. We see it as a fact. So these are the practices. That's what will help us in day-to-day life, in the competitive 9 to 5 job life. There, my actions, can I convert it into spiritual practice, karma yoga? Is my attitude towards God and the world based on love, bhakti yoga? Can I focus, put everything else aside for the thing at hand? And then, what do I think of myself? What am I? These are the fundamental practices with which you can deal with the world and attain enlightenment. You are muted.
Oh, sorry. Related to these practices, there are a few questions. So if I may ask, that during course of nididhyasana, there arise demons of dilemma. How to stabilize as the above state brings dryness and stagnates the mind. And another person asks, Sri Ramakrishna warns householders about dry reasoning and knowledge. How can we relate to it to the current topic?
That's right. That's why 4 yogas, Swami Vivekananda has talked about them. Dryness is avoided if you have love, bhakti, devotion to God. Remember, the one and the many being the same reality solves this problem. It is not that ultimately only Nirguna Brahman is the reality and that's it, everything else is erroneous or lower. No. What might seem philosophically lower or less sophisticated, I'm worshipping God. I love Krishna or Christ. And so that worship of God is the worship of the same reality. It is just put in other terms or in a different paradigm. So love of God will remove this problem of dryness. Yes. And it is not just Vedantic Nididhyasan alone. That's why it is highly recommended that one should have an Ishta Devata and an Ishta Mantra. Go to the Guru, take any Mantra Diksha, and have a specific form and a name to hold on to. The mind requires it. It's again the teaching of the one and the many. Don't think that you are doing two different things. One is I'm doing Advaita Vedanta and inquiry into who am I, and then my Guru has told me that worship Krishna or Ramakrishna or Christ or something like that. Two different things. No. Sri Ramakrishna himself said, Jejar Atma Shetarish, Jejar Ishta Shetar Atma. What it means is, whoever is your Ishta Devata, the chosen ideal given to you by God, by Guru, is your Atma. Now, our mind will immediately throw up objections, but I read in the Vedanta Sara and the Drigdrishya Viveka, I am pure consciousness. And here I'm being taught to visualize Krishna with his flute and then repeat the mantra of Krishna. How are they the same? They are the same. One and the many are the same reality. You see the again and again answers to all these questions at the heart. You can yourself trace out the answers if you hold on to the sutra, the master key, one and the many. The ultimate reality, the absolute, and its manifestations in every way, from the personal God to this physical universe, all are the same reality actually. Yeah.
So the next two questions I'm just repeating because maybe you have just answered, but with a one footnote with one of the other devotees might be interesting for your comments. So the questions were, is mantra japa part of Vedanta or part of Bhakti or Raja Yoga? How can observing thoughts bring realization? And you have told us that if we attain God, then we become perfect. But Ravan, Prahlad, they also attain God, but they are adharmi. So what's your comment on that?
I don't think you can classify Ravan and Prahlad together. Prahlad was a great devotee and Ravan was a villain.
No, sorry, not they are classified together, but Ravan was adharmi.
Yes. Correct. So yes, attaining self-realization makes you perfect. So Ravan, I don't think was an enlightened person. Ultimately, by the grace of God, he would have attained. That is, and then of course, after that, we don't know what happened to him. But in his life, in this world, he played the role of a villain. So that is not our ideal, to be a villainous devotee of God. No. So before that, you were asking about mantra japa. Traditional Advaita Vedanta includes everything. See, this is a confusion which has been set up in the modern times by some Neo-Vedanta teachers, which says just self-inquiry, realize you are perfect, you are the absolute reality, that's it. And then you look down upon all other practices. Oh God, there's nothing like that, forget it. All rituals are superstitions. Devotion, that is just sentimentalism. No. That way, you're just crippling the spiritual seeker. So, what did traditional Advaita Vedanta say? Notice that Shankaracharya, he has written so many beautiful hymns to the various deities. Hymn to Ganga, to Vishnu, to Rama, to Krishna, to Devi. In every form where how God was worshipped during his time, he has justified and re-established those worship, that kind of worship, through hymns and his full support to rituals. If you go to the traditional monasteries established by him, that in Sringeri and other places, you will find plenty of ritualism going on there. Now, what does this mean? Swami Ashokananda said, ritual is concrete philosophy. If you understand what is the meaning of ritual, you will find Advaita Vedanta philosophy there. It has been put in certain forms and practices. Of course, people don't understand that and they just do it mechanically, and then it's not much good. But my point is, traditional Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, includes karma yoga, includes upasana, worship. Upasana, worship, has two aspects. One is devotional and the other one is meditative. So bhakti and yoga are both included in that upasana. And finally, it is, of course, essentially Advaita Vedanta is jnana, the path of knowledge. Now, Advaita Vedanta sets up a hierarchy. The path of knowledge, this inquiry, is at the top. That's what leads you to enlightenment. But in order to prepare the mind for that path of inquiry, you need devotional practices, meditative practices, and the mind purifying practices of karma yoga. Karma yoga purifies the mind. Upasana, which includes devotion and meditation, focuses the mind, stabilizes the mind. With such a mind, enlightenment is easy when you do self-inquiry. With an impure mind, with a restless mind, if you try to do inquiry, then all these problems will come. It seems dry, or I understand it sometimes, then it goes away. Not the problem of non-dual Vedanta, it's the problem of the mind. It's the mind which has not gone through the preliminary practices. There's a whole book about this called Jivan Mukti Viveka, written about 600 years ago, which says that it is the mind purified by devotion, the mind purified by moral discipline. It is the mind purified by concentrated through deep meditation that can immediately lead to enlightenment and Jivan Mukti, that means freedom while living. If you don't have that, then along with your inquiry into the self, you must intensively practice meditation, intensively practice dispassion and the moral disciplines and devotion. Then only your inquiry will be powerful, fast, and effective.
Thank you, Swamiji. I don't know if we have time to ask two more questions or one more question. So
Yes.
there was one request, whether it would be relevant for today's talk, I don't know, but I'm reading it out. That Swamiji, I start doing Vipassana meditation, and after 6 days, I start seeing several light color. So I became very fearful. So I stopped doing meditation. What should I do?
Well, don't do anything that makes you scared, fearful, seeing sights and all. See, Advaita Vedanta has a simple answer to it. If you see something, Vedanta asks you to be interested in the one who is seeing, not in what you are seeing. Vedanta is not interested in what you experienced. Vedanta is interested in you, the experiencer. Vedanta is not interested in what you're thinking about. It's not interested in what you are feeling about. So that seems so cruel and heartless. No, Vedanta is interested in you, the thinker or the feeler. I am seeing lights. Okay. What is that I which is seeing lights? What is that I which did not see the lights before the meditation? What is that I which is not seeing the lights now? Vedanta is interested in that. And any kind of negative experience, especially in meditation, we should stop immediately. Stop immediately, relax, stretch, take a nice walk outside, and get back to the normal routine of living. There's no use putting unnecessary pressure on the mind. It can lead to psychological problems. Don't do that. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. That when does consciousness gets attached to body, mind, or illuminates mind? When we are fetus, or sometime later while growing in mother's womb?
Instead of saying that we are fetus or growing in mother's womb, what is it that is a fetus and what grows in the mother's womb? The physical body. Consciousness is ever there. At the point when mind becomes active in the fetus, consciousness would immediately illumine the mind, and through the mind experience. So a fully grown fetus, even before birth, is already experiencing, is already having experiences in the mother's womb. So consciousness is definitely illumining the mind there. So it's more a question of when is the fetus's mind, the body able to support the activity of the mind. The moment the mind becomes active, consciousness is always present. It just illumines that active mind.
So I think that's all from here. So Pranam Swamiji, I'll pass it over to Rai to.
Namaskar, Swamiji. I would like to invite Swami Purnanandaji to give the concluding remarks, following which we have our evening Vesper service, and we would like and invite you all to join us for that.
Maharaj, pranam.
Yes,
Pranam.
nice to see you. First of all, if I'm to give thanks, I have to give thanks to you for your kind donation so many years ago that helped to make this center possible. But of course, thanking people is a very necessary thing to do because an event like this doesn't happen spontaneously. There has to be planning. So I thank, of course, Rai for looking after speakers, that is interlocking all the speakers in the chain of events. And thanks to Swami Sarvapriyananda for inviting you and for inviting all the participants here and organizing this. We've had a wonderful day here in Ireland, and it's been uplifting for all the devotees here. And I have to thank all the devotees, of course, for their tremendous input to all these events. But of course, my thanks goes, of course, to you, Swami Sarvapriyananda, commonly known as a YouTube Swami. You probably know this, of course. And but no wonder, because you have this gift, if we can call this. I don't want to over flattery, do the over flattery business, but I think it's worthwhile saying that to bring a subject that could be highly complex, the Vedanta philosophy with all its ramifications, down to earth, is the talent that you supply to us all, and I'd like to thank you for that. The key points, of course, that you made are extremely relevant, and I think as part of the thanks, it's very useful probably to summarize some of the things that you had said, pointing out that the thrust, if you like, of Swami Vivekananda was this inner divinity and how to make it manifest, and this oneness of the universe. This is what you have emphasized. And in doing this, also, you mentioned another point, and that was the uniqueness of Swami Vivekananda. And so breaking it down and leading us inward through the various koshas, if you like, to the final conclusion of one consciousness. And this provides us with a universal panacea for everything, including reconciling work, worship, and also the past, the future, all these unique things. And you so nicely introduced us to the introduction itself, the complete works by our beloved Sister Nivedita, who gave us this wonderful insight into the character, the personality, and above all the teachings of Swami Vivekananda, reconciling not only East and West, past and future, but all the modes of activity in normal working, waking life. So I thank also all the devotees, as I say, who have come here, all those who have listened so carefully to you and asked such good, astute questions, and thank you for answering them so competently. And of course, those people who've been involved in the technical aspect of making this happen. And above all, my thanks, our thanks collectively to the divine consciousness itself for flowing through yourself and all of us here as a tribute and alignment to this divine consciousness that unites us all. So thank you so much. And with this, I conclude this event.
Thank you for having me. Thanks to pranams to Swami Purnanandaji. Thanks to Swami Shantivratanji and all the devotees, the volunteers there.
Thank you, Maharaj. And we would like to invite you all and ask you kindly to stay back for our evening aarti, which will commence now. Thank you.
Nira
Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. श्रीरामकृष्णे मर्त्यामृतं तव परं मरणोर्विनाशम् तस्मात्त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो नित्यं करोति कलुषम् कुहकान्तकाले स्नातं शिवं सुविमलम् तव नामनाथ यस्मादहं त्वशरणो जगदेकगम्या तस्मात्त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। ॐ नमः श्री भगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः। ॐ नमः श्री भगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः। ॐ नमः श्री भगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः। सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके देवी नारायणी नमोस्तुते। सृष्टिस्थितिविनाशानां शक्तिभूते सनातनी गुणाश्रये गुणामये नारायणी नमोस्तुते। शरणागतं दीनार्तं परित्राणं परायणे सर्वस्यापि हरे नारायणी नमोस्तुते। जय नारायणी नमोस्तुते। जय नारायणी नमोस्तुते। जय नारायणी नमोस्तुते। Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Mahamai Ki Jai. Jai Swami Ji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Buddha Dev Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Yesu Christ Ki Jai. Jai Loka Mata Nivedita Ki Jai. Prakritim Paramam Bhavayam Bhagavan Nararupadhanam Janatapaharam Saranagata Sevakatushakarī Pranamami Bharam Jananim Jagatam Hina Sukha Naparadayukam Kripaya Jasamudharamo Magatam Karani Prabhasajarakari Pranamami Bharam Janani Jagatam Vishayam Kusumam Tarinukasada Charanam Guruham Shanti Sudham Devadindamayam Prayudaharam Pranamami Bharam Janani Jagatam Kripam Guru Mahadevi Suteshu Pranateshu Cha Charanashrayadhanena Kripamai Namostute Lajjapatavrite Nityam Sharade Anandayike Pavebhyo Nassadaraksha Kripamai Namostute Ramakrishna Gata Prana Tannama Shravana Priyam Tadbhavaranjitakanam Pranamami Guru Pavitram Charitam Yasya Pavitram Jivanam Radha Pavitrata Sarupinye Asya Gurmo Namo Namaha Devi Prasannam Pranatantihante Yogendra Puja Yugadharma Patri Kamchaladam Bhakti Vidanti Gaya Swarupa Pranamami Nityam Snehena Bhagnasi Mano Smadiyam Doshana Sesham Saguni Karoshi Ahetunado Nayase Sarosham Swante Gurita Yatinam Vijitram Rasira Mata Vinaye Nayase Nityam Bhavasme Bhavati Sateshu Premaira Bindum Chiradam Janani Sharadam Devi Ramakrishna Jagadguru Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhu. We shall sing a Bengali song composed by Swami Vivekananda, Thathaya Thathaya Nachebola. How when Shiva dances, how it looks. It has been beautifully described, portrayed by Swami Vivekananda. We shall sing that song. It is on Shiva, and who is the embodiment of Shiva himself. Thathaya Thathaya Nachebola, Thathaya Thathaya Nachebola, Vamba Baba Jigala, Vamba Baba Jigala, Thathaya Thathaya Nachebola, Thathaya Thathaya Nachebola. Dimi 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 damaru bhaje, dimi 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 damaru bhaje, tuliche kapala mala, tuliche kapala mala. Thathaya Thathaya Nachebola, Thathaya Garje Ganga Jagamaj Ugare Anaga Srishularaj Garje Ganga Jagamaj Ugare Anaga Srishularaj Dhak 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 Mauri Bandha 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 Valesha Shankabala Valesha Shankabala Thathaya Thathaya Nachebola, Thathaya Thathaya Nachebola, Thathaya Thathaya Nachebola. Damaru harakare baje baje damaru harakare baje baje Trishula-dharanga Vasama-bhushana Trishula-dharanga Vasama-bhushana Jnana-mala Bali-viraje Damaru-harakare baje baje The Namavali and Swami Vivekananda is in Sanskrit. It's simple. Deepta Nayanara Vindam Shri Swami Vivekanandam Bharata Veera Narendram Vam Vande Simhaninadam. Please repeat after me. Deepta Nayanara Vindam Deepta Nayanara Vindam Shri Swami Vivekanandam Shri Swami Vivekanandam Bharata Veera Narendram Bharata Veera Narendram Vande Simhaninadam Vande Simhaninadam Deepta Nayanara Vindam Deepta Nayanara Vindam Shri Swami Vivekanandam Shri Swami Vivekanandam Bharata Veera Narendram Bharata Veera Narendram Vande Simhaninadam Vande Simhaninadam What's the number? Again, we are singing one song on Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Gahore Jai Jai Ramakrishna Nam. Gahore means sing. Sing the name of Ramakrishna. Gahore, Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Nam. And the poet is telling, and today is a very blessed day. Why? Because Sri Ramakrishna has descended. So we shall all sing his glorious name, and that day also will be a blessed day. And the name of Ramakrishna itself is full of is full of love. And he has descended on this earth out of love to support us all, to redeem us all from all the sufferings. And he has descended on this earth to remove all our difficulties. And such a Lord is our Ramakrishna. And who was Rama? And who was Krishna? And today has appeared as Vishwa Guru Ramakrishna. And also is the Shama, Shiva, means Shama is Kali, and Shiva is the Shiva we know, and Sham, that is Krishna. All of them are saved, none other than Ramakrishna. The meaning goes like this. Gabore Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Nam. Gabore Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Nam. Ajiye Shubhadi Namiye Bhagat Jana. Ajiye Shubhadi Namiye Bhagat Jana. Gabo Gabo Ramakrishna Nam. Gabo Gabo Ramakrishna Nam. Gabore Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Nam. Gabore Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Nam. Krishna Name, Krishna Prem, Krishna Name, Krishna Prem, Matiya Utu Radha, Matiya Utu Radha, Gabore Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Nam. Gabore Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Nam. Amrite Gubhate Mahabhata, Amrite Gubhate Mahabhata, Prabhu Ramakrishna Gunadam, Prabhu Ramakrishna Gunadam. Gabore Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Nam. Gabore Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Nam. Jai Ram Jai Krishna Vishwa Guru Ramakrishna. Jai Ram Jai Krishna Vishwa Guru Ramakrishna. Ekadhare Shama Shiva Sham. Ekadhare Shama Shiva Sham. Gabore Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Nam. Gabore Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Nam. Gabore Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Nam. We are singing a one song on Holy Mother Shri Sharda Devi. Is written by, composed by Swami Chandikananji, who was known as Brahmagnani, the knower of the Brahman. He describes the Holy Mother as, let the victory be on her. Why? Because she is full of compassion and she is our own mother. The goddesses has appeared in the form of mother to support us, to protect us. And she is the removal of all the world's afflictions, and she is the remover of all the fears and the problems, adverse circumstances, so on and so forth. And she also, if you want, if we wish, she also gives emancipation and all type of success. And she gives life force too. And she is not only the mother of saints, she is also the mother of sinners. And who came as descendants, Mother Sita, Mother Radha, Mother Mary, Mother Yashodhara, Vishnu Priya. She has come as Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi in this time, modern time. The Yuga Deva, even Sri Ramakrishna himself, worshipped her, and he offered all his sadhanas, fruits of sadhana, at her feet. And to such Narayani, to such goddesses, my salutations. Jaya Jaya Janani Jaya Shri Saranamam Karuna Rupini Jaya Jaya Janani Jaya Shri Saranamam Karuna Rupini Adya Shanti Parama
That's page 28 and 23. Jai Vishnu.
The same Swamiji, Swami Chandikananji, he has again composed in a Sanskritized Bengali on Swami Vivekananda. Jai Vireshwara Viveka Bhaskara. Salutations to victory to Vireshwara or Vivekananda. And he descended on this earth to spread the Vedanta for all of us and to give back our lost identity. And with compassion and with love, with blemishless character and with divine radiance, he descended on this earth, and he was full of renunciation, forbearance, fortitude, and so on and so forth. Karma, bhakti, gnana, like the path of action, the path of devotion, the path of knowledge, all these three were in his fingertips. He had taken as a spiritual path, and he also explained for the beings so that we can remove all our illusion. And he is the Brahman. And to such Narayana, Nararushi, my salutations. And I again pray to bless me and so that I will have the place at his lotus feet.
May we be thrall to see. In the nets of love, may we behold. From growth to age, and from age to death, your arms stretched out, Christ, consoling us. From age to end, not end, but rebirth, to the paradise of the Lord, may we be brought.
In 12, page 17.
তুমি ব্রহ্মরাম কৃষ্ণ, তুমি কৃষ্ণ, তুমি রাম, তুমি ব্রহ্মরাম কৃষ্ণ, তুমি কৃষ্ণ, তুমি রাম, তুমি বিষ্ণু, তুমি কৃষ্ণ, প্রভু বিষ্ণু প্রাণারাম, তুমি বিষ্ণু, তুমি কৃষ্ণ, প্রভু বিষ্ণু প্রাণারাম, তুমি ব্রহ্ম রাম কৃষ্ণ, তুমি কৃষ্ণ, তুমি রাম, তুমি ব্রহ্ম রাম কৃষ্ণ, তুমি আদি ও আধার, তুমি ব্রহ্ম নিরাকার, তুমি আদি ও আধার, তুমি ব্রহ্ম নিরাকার, তুমি নারূপধার, বিদিত কনকধাম, তুমি নারূপধার, বিদিত কনকধাম, তুমি ব্রহ্ম রাম কৃষ্ণ, তুমি কৃষ্ণ, তুমি রাম, তুমি ব্রহ্ম রাম কৃষ্ণ, অপার করুণা সিন্ধু, তুমি দেব দীনবন্ধু, অপার করুণা সিন্ধু, তুমি দেব দীনবন্ধু, যাচিন্দু কৃপা বিন্দু চরণে করি প্রণাম, যাচিন্দু কৃপা বিন্দু চরণে করি প্রণাম, তুমি ব্রহ্ম রাম কৃষ্ণ, তুমি কৃষ্ণ, তুমি রাম, তুমি কৃষ্ণ, তুমি বিষ্ণু, প্রভু বিষ্ণু প্রাণারাম, তুমি ব্রহ্ম রাম কৃষ্ণ, তুমি কৃষ্ণ, তুমি রাম.
Now we come to the last song of our session today, hymn 13 on page 17, Ramakrishna Sharanam.
Page 17. Ramakrishna Sharanam, Ramakrishna Sharanam, Ramakrishna Sharanam, Sharanam Ramakrishna Sharanam, Ramakrishna Sharanam, Ramakrishna Sharanam, Sharanam
Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Thank you very much. With this, we conclude our today's evening's Aarti session. Pranams.